Am I the asshole for making our guests feel unwelcome? Throwaway. English is not my first language. First of all, a little background. I've, 24F, been together with my boyfriend, 24M, for 3 years and we live together in a one-bedroom apartment. His 17-year-old brother lives with their parents in their hometown. I've always had a good relationship with his brother, who looked up to us. Now, to the story. Recently, there was a 5-day music festival in my town. The brother asked if he and some friends could crash in our living room during the festival. We agreed as long as they didn't disrupt our normal activities, as we had work in the mornings and preferred the house to ourselves in the afternoons. They promised to only come to sleep and they would spend most of their time at the festival. This was the only reason I agreed to the deal. During the week of the festival, he and his friends spent literally the entire day at home. They left to go to the festival around 9 p.m. each day and came home around 4 a.m. We were both annoyed by this. We need to pass through the living room to go to the balcony to smoke, and the bathroom was constantly occupied, often for an hour at a time, since we only have one. I was hinting towards the fact that they should be doing the daytime activities at the festival. There are plenty, but they said they don't want to. I was getting more and more frustrated and wanted to confront them directly, but my boyfriend said I can't. I did have issues with expressing my anger in the past, so he was worried I would come off as too aggressive if I said something. I asked him to talk to his brother then, but he refused. One day, the bathtub was filled with hair and the whole bathroom was covered with a massive puddle. My boyfriend explained to them that they should use the shower curtains when showering, because the water from the floor flows under the bathtub, bad construction, and leaks, flooding the downstairs neighbor. The next day, when I go to shower, the bathroom is really badly flooded again. I yelled out, "We told you we have a shower curtain, so please F.C. King use it instead of flooding the entire bathroom." I accidentally slammed the door, open windows and it was windy, but I'm also well aware that no one would believe me that it was accidental, so I'll take the blame for it. For the remainder of their stay, I was trying to avoid them and said some passive-aggressive remarks when I had to wait for the bathroom. The morning after they left, I received a long text from his brother calling me an awful host, telling me that I made his friends feel unwelcome. He told me he never wants to see me again and that he feels ashamed in front of his friends now. My boyfriend got a call from his mom and she said that his brother has been saying awful things about me to the whole family. He did defend me, but he still thinks I'm the asshole. I'd love to get some outside perspective on this. Edit to add some things that didn't fit in the original post due to length. We did ask them to pay a small amount of money, think $10 for the entire 5 days, to cover the utilities. Obviously we made no profit of this, but I thought I'd add in case it changes the judgments. They weren't loud or disrespectful, that's why my boyfriend was against talking to them. The main issue was the fact that they stayed in all day and we couldn't use the bathroom and living spaces normally. And the shower issue. I wasn't unwelcoming at the beginning, had small talk with them and even invited them out with our friends, they declined. However, it kinda bugged me that they never even introduced themselves, nor did my BF's brother introduce them. It felt like the small talk was one-sided, so I didn't try much. His mom didn't accuse me of anything. She called my boyfriend to tell him that his brother has been saying awful things about me and to get our perspective, as she didn't think I would do that without a reason. His brother has been acting out lately and had conflicts with many family members, due to his entitled behavior if you ask me, so his mom knew she was not getting the whole story from him. Not the asshole. But your boyfriend is. You and he were clear on expectations, they were clearly violating boundaries and expectations and your boyfriend refused to address it, now you are the asshole. This is ridiculous and you need to address your BF. You have a boyfriend problem. He is the problem here. Make him clear shit up with the family. Not the asshole. An awful guest creates an awful host. They were rude, inconsiderate and were not upfront with their plans. Not the asshole. You really should have thought it through before allowing them to stay. Not the asshole. They didn't even introduce yourself, flooded your bathroom twice, stayed home when they said they'd be out. And you're the rude one? Come on. Would I be the asshole for telling my sister I won't attend her wedding because I hate her fiancé? Older sister, Brooke, 32F fiancé, Mark, 32M me no nickname necessary, 25F younger sister, Jenny 22F my sister, call her Brooke, has been together with Mark since freshman year of high school. As far as I understand it, they did not want to get married initially because Brooke is vehemently child-free, and Mark agrees with her, but they have decided to hold a wedding commitment ceremony next spring after a lot of years of back and forth. The problem is, I've known Mark since I was a kid. He started coming around to the house a lot when he and Brooke were sophomores in high school, so I was 8 or so when I first met him as Brooke's boyfriend, and I have basically hated him the whole time. I've tried to be polite, particularly now that we are all adults, but I just don't want to go to the wedding of my sister and the guy she's always put before her family. As an example, when Brooke and Mark started dating, Brooke went from eating dinner at home with the rest of us every night to going out 2 or 3 times a week with Mark and his friends. This was against our parents' rules, and caused a lot of arguments that negatively impacted both me and our younger sister Jenny, who was barely in kindergarten at the time and didn't understand what was going on. Brooke and our parents started fighting basically every night, and it was incredibly disruptive to our home life. My sister went from being my best friend to a stranger, and Mark was the one encouraging it. The stress of those years was so bad that I had to repeat 4th grade, failed math, and I was bullied really badly for that. I stopped going to school looking nice because there was so much tension in the home that no one was paying attention to whether or not I had clean clothes. Jenny also struggled academically and socially, but I was able to step in and help her more with things like getting dressed and packing her lunch, so she doesn't remember those years as negatively as I do. Of course, as soon as Brooke and Mark graduated, he convinced her to move across the country to go to college. Our parents were really hurt by this, and there were a few years where she didn't come home over Christmas or summers. Eventually things cooled down when I was in high school and Brooke started making more contact with our family, but Mark would do things like glare at our parents over the dinner table and suddenly declare that it was time for them to go. I don't think I should have to go to the wedding of my sister and this guy that stole her from us, and I am planning on RSVPing, no, when the time comes. Our family has been minimally involved in wedding planning, and I am not in the bridal party or anything like that. They are all friends of Brooke and Mark's from the hospital where they work. Wibta? Edit. I am getting a lot of feedback that Brooke was potentially parentified. If anyone has recommendations for podcasts or books about that, I would appreciate it. I think I need to learn more about her experiences before I decide about the wedding, since we did used to be close and it would be unfortunate to lose the relationship entirely, which is what some commenters think will happen if I skip the wedding. Thank you. Edit 2. Please stop attacking my parents. They have their faults, but they did not have many resources when we were young. It's important to me to support them now that they are older and can't work, but I also want to support Brooke and understand better now that I have not been handling this in a mature way. I will be apologizing to her and asking for more of her perspective on things from our childhood. I'm going to stop reading now, but I appreciate your help. Thank you. YWBTA. Your family is weird AF. You haven't listed one thing that Brooke and Mark did that's not normal. So, you freaked out and failed math because your sister went out to eat? Your parents are the real Oz. They created a toxic environment in the home. Go to the wedding or don't, but stop blaming Mark for your sister's behavior. You seem to have a lot of family problems that have made you bitter, but they aren't all Mark's fault. Your sister and parents were in this dynamic, too. YWBTA. You are the asshole not for simply not attending but for you using Mark as the scapegoat to all your life issues. You were under 10 when they got together. Time to let the tantrum go and grow up. We all need be accountable for our words and actions. Sounds like your sister was the typical teen. Info. Why are you blaming your sister for your parents' behavior? Did they train you to blame her? Did they vent their frustrations upon you? Did they constantly talk about how bad she was and that bad things were happening because it was her fault? If so, that is abuse and you've been a victim of gaslighting at home. Sue, your parents have basically neglected you and your little sister because they were fighting with their eldest and you blame her boyfriend? Wow. He didn't steal your sister from her family. He didn't force her to fight with your parents. They created an unhealthy environment and made her choose. You are the asshole. But sorry for your shitty childhood, you deserved better. Am I the asshole for telling my wife about a surprise date we're no longer going on? So I, 27M, was putting up a surprise date for my wife, 25F, to go out to our favorite Japanese restaurant. My wife, however, is on a call type of work. She's a babysitter for a friend of hers. So here's the issue. My wife mentioned to me that this weekend, she had to go watch her friend's 3 kids overnight tonight and tomorrow night. She hasn't been looking forward to it and has actually been dreading it. I was a little disappointed, but she's making money, so I can't be too upset. But then, her car broke down yesterday night, Thursday. She can't drive it and she's ordering parts in today. She asked me to drive her to work today and she's going to stay there until Sunday morning. I was on a time crunch and still getting ready for work. I reluctantly agreed and took her to work before I had to get ready. She asked to grab a coffee and offered to buy me breakfast so I wouldn't be so crunched for time. I kept looking at the time and got more and more peeved that my time to get ready was slipping away for a coffee and a 15-minute drive because of her car. I got her there, but on the way, I mentioned the dinner. She mentioned my hair after being quiet most of the ride, and I mentioned that I was going to get it cut as a surprise for a surprise date to the restaurant. She groaned and said she's rather go for a date. I said it's a little late for that, and dropped her off with a quick, "I love you," from her, and she grabbed her stuff. I did kinda snap at her, and I know that's why she was quiet. Now she messaged me and said that she loved me and that she's sorry for making me late, which I was. She also mentioned that she would have loved to go to dinner if she could get out of watching her friends' kids overnight this weekend. I know she's probably feeling guilty for making me drive her, she has literally no other choice. I did make a comment that I'd make her just use a motorized pedal bike to bike the 15 minutes uphill. So I'm asking you all. Am I the asshole for mentioning the surprise dinner? Update. First of all, tie to all the comments that just ripped off the band-aid and didn't sugarcoat anything. I was definitely the asshole and I see that now. Her and I talked about it. She mentioned the passive-aggressive comment I made and called me out on it, rightfully so. I saw where I went wrong and apologized. She did warn me in advance, and that she had to work this weekend. I'm more mad at myself now because I knew I could have woken her and I up earlier and I didn't account for the extra time we needed and such. I was only 10 minutes late, which wasn't crazy or anything. I'm on my break right now. We have the date set for this next weekend and we're fixing up her car on Sunday after she's back. I'm also treating her to a coffee from the coffee stand on Sunday as well. She apologized too, but I assured her that her car breaking down was just unfortunate timing and she has nothing to apologize for. I shouldn't have been so passive-aggressive and bitter with my comment. I did definitely mention the dinner as a petty payback, but she's super excited to go, which makes my heart flutter. Her smile was adorable. And to those who have seen my previous Am I the Asshole about Japan, we're looking at flights to go. She's very excited and working on her Japanese like crazy. I was just worried of her learning something that wouldn't be used if we didn't go, but she assured me she was learning to learn, not with the expectation of going to Japan. But it's definitely a bonus. You are the asshole. Your motivation for telling her was to upset her. That's a shitty thing to do. You have a really weird dynamic with your wife. Her car broke down. Y'all are married. It's one of our cars broke down. You reluctantly agreed to drive her to work for a one-off situation. You then brought up the dinner for some reason after she got called in to work this weekend. Then she expressed she'd rather be going on that date night with you. You were rude back to her. You also made a snide remark how she could use a motorized bike instead of you driving your wife to work, after she apologized to you for the car breaking down. You are the asshole. You are the asshole, but not for mentioning the dinner. The problem is that you took out your annoyance over a series of unavoidable incidents on her. She's not any happier about her car being broken than you are. She was aware of the imposition being put on you, and how frustrated you were, and she tried to reach out by saying that she would have rather had the dinner than deal with the car and the work. At that point, the correct response would have been to reassure her. You could have said, "Yeah, I know. We'll do it next week." Apologize to her for snapping, offer a rain check on the date. You are the asshole. In a comment you mentioned that you didn't make a reservation, so your surprise date was more of a maybe date. I'm not even sure I believe you had a date set up. Sounds like you just wanted to upset her. You are the asshole. Am I the asshole for costing my friend getting a $10,000 loan? I've been friends with Tucker and working with him for around 15 years. He's borrowed money from me often, usually $20, $50, and always paid me back, though usually late. An example. He once borrowed $100. Due to financial problems, he asked to pay me back $20 a week. He would give me $20 on Friday and then borrow $20 on Saturday. By the time he had repaid the $100, I had $360 worth of $20 notes. Tucker's financial situation is closely tied to his wife, who is just as bad when it comes to managing money. I knew they were in worse financial shape than usual, but I hadn't fully realized the extent of their difficulties. Yesterday, I got a call from a colleague, Kathy. She said Tucker had asked her to borrow money and was after my advice. I assured her that he would 100% repay her, but once he realizes she's willing to lend him money, he might make frequent requests and take longer than promised to pay back. I shared the above anecdote with her and left the decision to her, saying to do what she felt was right. I was unaware Tucker had confided in Kathy about his financial problems, and she had offered to loan him $5,000. This was quite different from what I had assumed was a request for $20. I learned this when Kathy called me again an hour later. Tucker and wife had visited Kathy's house with a contract they had drafted. Instead of the initially mentioned $5,000, they now sought $10,000 and asked if she would double her offer. Kathy informed them that she had consulted a financial advisor friend, a lie to protect me, who advised against it. Later, Tucker's wife was messaging Kathy, expressing their heartbreak at having the opportunity for $10,000 slip away, especially when they were offered the money. She hinted that someone from work had influenced Kathy's decision and said how the money could have helped them escape debt and regain stability. They pledged to pay back $500 per month consistently, but Kathy remained firm in her refusal. Kathy shared the messages and contract with me. The contract seemed solid, and their efforts appeared genuine. That's when my guilt began to set in. I hadn't, however, revealed to Kathy the true reason behind my somewhat discouraging advice. Back in 2020, unbeknownst to Tucker, I had lent his wife $5,000 with the same promise she had made to Kathy. She assured me she would pay back $300 a month and even sent me screenshots of the monthly direct debits she had set up. However, she still owes me $4,400. Regrettably, I hadn't considered a contract, given our long-standing friendship. Additionally, I know they also still owe another friend $2,000. This is where I started to feel like an The main reason they needed the money was to recover a family heirloom they had pawned some time ago in desperation for quick cash. Failing to pay will result in them losing it. So am I the asshole for giving Kathy advice that prevented the loan, potentially causing them to lose a family heirloom and sink further into debt? No, not the asshole. It is not your fault that they can't handle money or that they don't keep their promises. Not the asshole they can't handle money, all you and their friends are doing is enabling. You only paid back because the amounts you lent are small. Not the asshole. If you weren't honest with Kathy, she would have likely ended up out a lot of money once they stopped paying, and wouldn't you feel guilty for that? You've done all you can to help those people and they proved unworthy. They need to figure this out for themselves. I think you are the asshole, because you didn't tell your friend the entire truth. You told her that Tucker pays people back, but you never told Kathy that Tucker's wife still hasn't paid back what she owes you and that she owes someone else money. Your friend made the right decision, but she could have easily made another one with the little info you gave her. Not the asshole. I say buy the heirloom from the pawnshop, and offer to sell it back for what they owe you plus what you paid.